The battlefield is quiet now, and the air tastes like metal and smoke and dust, the kind that clings to the back of your throat long after the shooting stops. A man stands alone amid the wreckage, armor scarred, helmet dangling from his fingers, eyes fixed on a horizon painted in ash and fire. He has no need for applause or medals because every breath is already a victory. They call him the commander, but the truth is, he is simply the last man still standing, a survivor shaped by silence. Once he believed that shouting orders could bend chaos to his will, but war taught him the opposite. The louder the world screams, the more a leader must learn to whisper. Calm is a weapon sharper than any blade. Every line on his face was carved by something that tried to break him. Some came from shrapnel, some from betrayal, some from the endless waiting between explosions when time itself seems to hold its breath. He has learned that scars are not decorations. They are receipts proving that pain was paid in full. Science says the brain rewires itself under pressure, neurons forging tougher paths, resilience built cell by cell. He doesn't quote research papers, but his body knows the truth. Adaptation is survival. He remembers the first firefight, hands trembling so hard he could barely reload, vision narrowing to a tunnel of noise and dust. He thought fear meant weakness until he realized fear is simply the body's way of saying it wants to live. The trick is not to erase fear, but to command it. Breathe slow, aim steady, act anyway. Breath is everything. Studies show controlled breathing can cut cortisol nearly in half, but he learned it in the dirt, not in a lab. Inhale through the chaos, exhale the noise, repeat until it becomes instinct. His hands are rough now, skin split by cold and heat and years of holding on. They shake sometimes, not from fear, but memory, a tremor that reminds him of every time he refused to drop his weapon, refused to give in. Strength, he knows, has nothing to do with muscle. It's the choice to keep moving when your body begs you to stop. Real strength is quiet, invisible, the kind that doesn't need witnesses. Out here, discipline is more than a word, it's oxygen. Routine replaces comfort, order replaces hope. Every morning he still cleans his gear, though no one is left to inspect it. Habit keeps the mind from unraveling. Studies from military psychologists prove that soldiers anchored in routine are far less likely to break under prolonged stress. The brain finds safety in predictability. The commander found sanity in repetition. A recruit once asked how he stayed calm when everyone else was falling apart. He had no answer then, but later he said softly, "Panic never brings them back." The young man didn't understand, not yet. But those words became a code the commander lived by. Battles are won long before they begin. They are won in training, in repetition, in the invisible hours when no one is watching. Every drill, every march, every bruise is a promise to the future. The commander knows this better than anyone. When the first shot is fired, there's no time to think. You simply become what you practiced. It's muscle memory and faith fused together. One wrong breath, one hesitation, and someone dies. That knowledge has a way of burning hesitation out of a man. He remembers the day everything went wrong, when the storm rolled in without warning and the radio died mid-order. Half the unit vanished into the fog, and the valley turned into a trap. He led whoever remained through mud and fire, each step slower than the last. He doesn't remember the noise. He remembers the silence between the blast, the brief moments when the world seemed to hold its breath. That's where leadership is born, not in shouting, but in stillness. Scientists talk about mirror neurons, how calmness spreads like a contagion. He's seen it happen. One steady man can slow a dozen hearts. When panic roared, he stayed silent, and that silence became a signal stronger than any command. That night, they reached the ridge alive, but the price was written on his face. Later, when they asked how he did it, he said, because someone had to. That's leadership stripped of ego. Oh, it's not about rank, it's about responsibility. Data backs it up. Teams led by emotionally controlled leaders have success rates up to 40% higher in crisis simulations. The numbers are cold, but the meaning is human. The men followed him because he made them believe they could survive. And belief, he learned, is the most dangerous weapon of all. Months later, he stood over graves marked with numbers instead of names. The air was still heavy and the world moved on without them. He realized medals rust and banners fade, but the memory of those who trusted you never leaves. He carries them inside, each one a ghost that whispers when he closes his eyes. They remind him why he can't afford to crumble. Every decision now feels like walking through broken glass barefoot, but he walks anyway. Sleep is rare. He lies awake, listening to the hum of distant artillery and wonders if peace is just another kind of noise. He's seen men chase glory until it kills them. He doesn't chase anything anymore. He just endures. Some nights he talks to no one, but the silence answers back. They say soldiers become addicted to adrenaline, but he's addicted to quiet. It's the only thing that still makes sense. He's learned that wars never really end. They just change shape. For some, they become memories. For others, they move inside the chest and live there forever. The commander knows which kind he's fighting now. The kind you can't see, can't shoot, can't win by force. He fights it the only way he knows how, by keeping his body moving when his mind wants to stop. Push-ups until his arms give out, runs through the mud until his legs burn, cleaning weapons that no longer need cleaning. Movement keeps the memories from settling too deep. Psychologists call it kinetic grounding, using motion to anchor yourself in the present. The commander doesn't know the term, but he understands the effect. Every drop of sweat is a small victory against the ghosts. He's seen data showing that exercise cuts anxiety by half. That routine movement stabilizes dopamine and focus, but for him it's simpler. When he moves, he feels alive. When he stops, he hears the screams again. So he moves. He remembers a night of rain that never ended. The trench flooded, men shivered in silence, and somewhere beyond the darkness, artillery flashed like lightning. He looked around at faces too young for such fear and realized leadership isn't about orders. It's about presence. Sometimes the only thing a soldier needs to see is that his commander is still standing. He waded through waist-deep water, checking every post, saying nothing. Each nod, each glance was a promise that they weren't alone. Later, he read a report saying morale rises 80% when leaders share hardship, but he didn't need research to know it was true. The body listens to what the eyes see. If the leader doesn't break, neither does the unit. When dawn came, the rain stopped, and a mist rose from the ground like ghosts leaving the earth. He watched it quietly and felt a strange peace, the kind that comes only after surviving something that should have killed you. In that moment, he realized survival itself is a form of courage. Not dramatic, not glorious, but steady. People talk about heroes as if they're born different. The commander knows better. Heroes are just survivors who kept moving. He's seen men with every advantage fold under pressure and others with nothing rise through sheer stubborn will. Studies call it grit. Psychologists define it as passion and perseverance for long-term goals, but he knows it simply as refusal. Refusal to quit, refusal to die, refusal to surrender to despair. He thinks of the faces of those who refused alongside him, men who joked in the dark to keep fear away. Laughter, he learned, is armor too. Scientists say laughter triggers endorphins that dull pain and fear responses. Out here, jokes were the cheapest medicine they had. Sometimes he still hears them and almost smiles, but then the silence returns and reminds him he's the last one left to remember. That weight is heavier than any pack he's carried. He bears it without complaint because that's what command means. Leadership doesn't end when the battle does. It lingers in memory, in the choices that follow. He carries the dead in his decisions, measuring every action by what it might cost the living. He sits by the fire sometimes, the small blue flame flickering against his face, and thinks about the weight of command. Nobody prepares you for the quiet after the battle, the silence that presses on your chest until breathing feels like a task. Out there, he learned that survival is not the end of war. It's the beginning of remembering. The brain keeps replaying fragments. An echo of a scream, a flash of light, the smell of burning metal. And it doesn't stop just because the guns do. Scientists call it post-stress growth. When some people emerge stronger from trauma, their resilience rebuilt molecule by molecule by molecule. Statistics show nearly half of those who endure extreme hardship develop new levels of strength and empathy. The commander never read those numbers, but he lives them. Each scar, each nightmare has turned into something like wisdom, a hard kind of understanding that peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the mastery of it. He once stood over a field littered with gear and letters never sent. The wind moved through it like a whisper, carrying the weight of unfinished stories. In that moment, he made a promise, not to forget, not to waste the pain. Pain, he realized, is data. It teaches, it shapes, it remembers for you when you try to forget. Pain keeps you human. There are civilians who will never grasp that. They run from discomfort as if it's poison. But the commander knows that comfort kills more dreams than fear ever will. When life gets too easy, the muscles of willpower start to decay. Discipline must be exercised like a body, or it withers. He's seen studies about habit formation. 21 days to build, 66 to anchor, but he knows time isn't the point. Repetition is. Every morning he forces himself up before sunrise, even when exhaustion begs him to stay down. He ties his boots, runs 5 miles, eats in silence. Routine is his religion. It's what stands between him and the chaos still echoing inside his skull. He has read that structure reduces intrusive thoughts by giving the brain predictable patterns to follow, lowering the amygdala's alarm response. For him, it's simpler. If he's busy, he doesn't think. If he doesn't think, he can breathe. He finds strange comfort in the weight of gear, the feel of leather straps across his shoulders, the creak of worn boots. It's a language his body understands, a ritual that tells his nerves he's still in control. Control is everything. Not control of the world, that's impossible, but control of himself, of his reaction to what the world throws at him. That's the only kind that matters. When others lose their temper, he lowers his voice. When chaos rises, he slows his breathing. He's learned that calm isn't natural, it's trained. Neuroscientists talk about neural pathways strengthening through repetition, and his mind is a map of that training. Every quiet choice is a small rebellion against the noise. Years later, when the dust of countless missions has settled and the noise of battle exists only in distant memory, the commander stands at the edge of a cliff overlooking the sunrise. The world below is silent, the kind of silence that used to scare him, but now feels like peace. His body carries the marks of everything he's endured, but his mind feels light, almost new. The uniform that once defined him now hangs loosely, its colors faded but its purpose fulfilled. Fulfilled, he watches the light spread across the horizon and thinks about how everything he once fought against, fear, pain, loss, had been the very thing that carved the strength within him. The young recruits he trained now laid others, passing forward the same calm he once struggled to find. He sees them in cities, in families, in quiet places where discipline meets kindness, and he realizes that legacy isn't built in monuments, it's built in moments. He remembers a quote he once read, "A warrior is not the one who always wins, but the one who always fights." That truth lives in his bones. He's learned that courage doesn't roar. Sometimes it just whispers, "I try again tomorrow." The battlefield may have changed, but the war within never truly ends. The fee ends. Boom! Life will always test resolve. Doubt will always attack from hidden corners, but now he knows how to fight it with stillness, with awareness, with purpose. Studies say the human heart beats around 100,000 times a day. To him, every beat is a drum of defiance, a reminder that he's still here, still breathing, still capable of giving something back. The commander bends down, picks up a small stone, and turns it over in his hand. It's ordinary, rough, unremarkable, like the millions that cover the ground. But in his palm, it feels sacred, because he knows that greatness isn't found in shining medals or perfect victories. It's hidden inside the ones who refuse to give up when everything hurts. He closes his fist around the stone and whispers a silent promise to the wind. that he will keep standing, keep teaching, keep living like a soldier of the soul. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth touches his scarred face, and for the first time he smiles, not because the fight is over, but because he finally understands why it was necessary. The battles, the scars, the losses, they were never curses, they were the forge. He is no longer the man who went to war. He is the man who returned with wisdom. Every person watching this, every listener, carries their own war, their own invisible wounds. And just like him, they have the same choice, to be broken by pain or to be built by it. The commander's voice echoes through the dawn, calm and unshaken, as if speaking to anyone who has ever fallen. Stand up, not because it's easy, but because you can. Then he turns, walking toward the light, leaving behind not footsteps, but a message written in the silence he once feared. That strength doesn't mean you never break. It means you never stay broken.